I think we can kick off now, David.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sophia. Well, hi everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join this training webinar on ensuring driver safety during the pandemic with Mixed Telematics. My name's David Harradine. I'm based here in Brisbane as a customer success manager, and I've been at Mixed Telematics for the past 7 years. Well, we're all aware of the safety benefits of having an in-vehicle monitoring system installed in our vehicles and ensuring compliance with our company's driving policy. So today we're going to go through a variety of ways this technology can assist you during the pandemic, specifically when used in conjunction with the Mixed Fleet Manager software platform. I'm happy to take any questions at the end of the session. Just an FYI, your microphones have all been muted, but at the end of the training, you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask a question. Okay, well, during these challenging times, it's more important than ever to ensure the safety of your drivers. And as fleet managers and health and safety managers, you still have a duty of care to manage the safety of your drivers, work-related risk, and the risk of your drivers being infected with COVID-19. I'd like to show you a few different ways in which you can utilize Mixed Fleet Manager to assist you with these responsibilities. So many of you still have drivers who are carrying out essential services. Now, even though the roads during COVID-19 have generally been quieter, some drivers may have more of a tendency to speed when the roads are less busy, and there may be the perception among your drivers that the roads are potentially being less monitored by law enforcement at the moment. This is certainly the case here in Queensland, Australia, where random breath testing has been stopped, so police resources can be redeployed to enforcing social distancing in public places. You could therefore argue that the Queensland roads are more dangerous than ever, as there would be more drivers driving under the influence of alcohol on our roads at present, without the fear of being detected by police. So first I'm going to show you how Mixed Fleet Manager reports can be used to help you determine whether any of your drivers are speeding or driving their vehicles in an unsafe manner during the pandemic. Well, you may have drivers who are anxious or tired or stressed during the pandemic, so it's important to check that their driving performance isn't being hampered in any way. And the best way to understand an overview of driver behavior within your fleet is to utilize the Mixed Fleet Manager reports that I'm going to show you. I'll be starting with the RAG report. The RAG report gives your drivers a score based on the number of harsh acceleration and harsh braking events and the amount of time spent exceeding the company's set speed limit. So I'm going to go to Mixed Fleet Manager. And I'm going to go to Measure, Reports. And I'm going to click on the drop down and I'm going to choose RAG Reports. And I'm going to click on Augmented Summary RAG Report. I'm going to report on driver. I'm going to select my drivers. And I'm going to click on Next. And I'm going to select the report period. We can choose to either pick a preset period, which you can see in the drop-down list here, or we can choose a customized period by entering the date ranges into the boxes here. So I'd like to get an idea month to date of how the drivers have been behaving. So I'm going to click on month to date and next. Next again. And here I've got the ability to view it on screen or to download the report. I'm going to download it as a PDF. You could also choose CSV or Excel if you would like to, and click on Run. My report's downloaded into the bottom corner here. I'll show you that. So on the screen now, we have our RAG report. We have the drivers listed, the distance they travelled, the number of harsh accelerations, the number of harsh brakes, and the maximum overspeed value, and also the duration of overspeeding. Now, each driver has been grouped into green, amber, or red based on their performance values. Green is for drivers who have an overall RAG score of between 0 and 2. Amber is the drivers that are between 2 and 5, and the red drivers are those drivers who have a score of 5 or greater. So based on this report, we would sit down with the amber and the red drivers, and we'd probably have a coaching session just to talk about their harsh accelerations, harsh brakes, and overspeeding, and work on ways that you can reduce those and improve safety within the fleet. So you can also monitor driver safety events via the event report. So I'm going to show you how you can monitor seatbelt wearing, overspeeding, harsh acceleration, harsh braking, and harsh cornering. I'll click on Done for that report. This time I'll click the drop down and I'll choose Event Reports. And I'm going to choose the Detailed Event Report. I'm going to report on assets. You've got the ability to choose driver or asset. I'm going to select the assets, click Next. Now here I've got the ability to choose which events I would like to appear in my report. I'm going to click Select. I'm going to just type harsh, and that's going to bring up harsh cornering, harsh acceleration, harsh braking, and harsh braking excessively. I'm also going to look at seatbelt wearing. So I'm just going to type the word seat, and down here I have seatbelt not used. I'm going to select that one. Click Select. Then I'm going to choose the time period. I'm going to say for the month to date. Click Next. I'm going to download it. This time I'd like to see that in CSV format, and click Run. My event report has been generated and appears down in the bottom corner. And here's my event report that's giving me the details of the driver, the site, the type of event. So as we can see here, we had numerous instances of harsh cornering. We've got harsh braking as well, but it looks like everybody's been wearing their seatbelt. There was no occurrences of people not wearing their seatbelts. So your MIX IVMS unit contains an internal 3-axis accelerometer that's able to detect G-forces and tilt angles within an acceptable threshold range, and then generate an event if those thresholds are exceeded. I'm going to show you how to run an event report that will allow you to monitor the possible rollover event and the possible accident event. Of all times, now would not be the time that you'd want your drivers to have a motor vehicle crash and have to enter into personal contact with another motorist or emergency services. Exchanging details, the risk of infection just increases greatly if we're having to deal with a motor vehicle crash at the moment. So again, I'm going to click Done. This is going to be bringing me back to the section where I can select the type of report. It's a detailed event report. Selecting my vehicles. Selecting from the event list. And this time we're going to type in roll. That brings up 3-axis rollover event. And we'll also put in possible accident. We have a number of options: possible accident out of trip, possible impact in trip, possible vehicle crash. I'll select that. I'll select possible impact, and an alert for possible accident, and select. I'm going to have a look for any of those events that have occurred this month. Click next, and next again. I'll have a look at that as PDF. Run. It appears down in the bottom corner. And thankfully we had no occurrences of any of those events in the month to date. So that's great. Now, what you can have with events such as this, being critical events, is notifications set up in the system. You can have people emailed, and in some countries an SMS sent to alert managers and pre-selected staff members that one of those critical events has occurred. Now, another thing you can do is to fit a panic switch to your vehicle, and you can utilize the SIM card in your IVMS unit to send a panic notification to selected recipients when it's activated by a driver. This feature is particularly useful for drivers during the pandemic. And again, if a driver was to activate the panic switch, that would be sent through to the managers as an email or SMS alert, so it could be actioned immediately. What I'm going to do is just show you how to also view any of those panic events. Again, it's under the detailed event report, and you can just select panic notification. Now, another thing that we certainly should be aware of at the moment is driver fatigue. Now, an important safety consideration during the pandemic is monitoring your driver fatigue levels. The chain of responsibility laws in place in many countries place the onus on company managers to ensure that drivers in their fleets are not exceeding maximum allowable driving hours before having a break. Your Mix IVMS unit can be configured to sound a continuous buzzer when the driver's exceeded the maximum allowable driving time. Again, we can report on those within the detailed event report if you select a continuous driving event and report on that. It's very useful to set up this event. You can force your drivers to, for example, only drive a heavy vehicle for 5 hours before they must take a break. A buzzer will sound continuously in the cab. The driver will have to pull over, switch the vehicle off, and have a half an hour break, for example, before continuing his journey in order to stop the event. Another consideration during the pandemic is that you may have imposed strict restrictions on night driving within your fleet to reduce the risk of exposure to infection. The risk associated with driving increases greatly at night time. There's reduced visibility, there's the potential for animal strikes, and of course increased fatigue levels and the risk of falling asleep behind the wheel. Now again, we can set up an event that is called night driving. You're able to enter in the parameters for night driving, such as 9 p.m. till 5 a.m., for example. And if any drivers drive between those hours, you can have a night driving event generated. Again, you could have a notification via an email or an SMS to alert you of that. And you can also run the detailed event report to check if any of your drivers have been driving at night, and check how many of those nighttime driving events you have. Now, we mentioned previously that you can have panic alerts that are sent usually via the panic switch that's installed in the vehicle. That will use the SIM card that's installed in your vehicle, and when the vehicle is out of GSM coverage areas, it will use a satellite device. If you've installed an Iridium or a Honeywell Telematics satellite transceiver in your vehicle, you're then able to use the satellite network to carry that panic alert through. Now, one way to view anything like a panic alert or any of the events that I've just shown you is via the Info Hub. Now, the Info Hub is something that is very useful to display on a screen in your control room to keep track of any of the events being generated from your fleet in real time. So to access the Info Hub, we go to Monitor. And over here, we've got Info Hub. And if I click on Streams, it's currently loading all of the events that I chose to have in the Info Hub stream. So in a moment, that's going to appear for us. I definitely recommend having a screen within your operation that you can have displaying the Info Hub at any time so that you can see any of these events that are coming through in a visual manner such as this. Now mine has appeared here and we've got some harsh cornering and thankfully only a test of the rollover event. Some more harsh cornering. Some more harsh cornering. There's a harsh acceleration. A harsh braking excessively. So this is a very easy way that you can see all of the events that are happening without running the event report. You can simply monitor this during your day within your control room to see what's happening out there on the roads. Now, a feature that we have in here, on each of these events, we have a section that says details. So I can drill down a little bit further into this particular harsh braking event. I immediately get taken to a map that shows me where the event occurred. And if I scroll down, at the moment the action status says not actioned. Well, if I scroll down, I can say here that the way I've actioned it was by talking to the driver when he returned to the operation at the end of the day. And as it was a harsh brake, the driver wasn't leaving enough safe following distance between herself and the vehicle in front approaching some traffic lights. So I spoke to driver about safe following distances. And then I can click save. If I go back to the stream, the status changed to actioned rather than not actioned. Anybody else who would like to come along and check whether it's been actioned or not? They can see it says actioned. They can click on details. They can go into this harsh cornering here and they can see that I spoke to that driver earlier today. My comments were driver's been spoken with. Therefore, no further action would be required on that event. So I'll move on now to geofences. And within Mixed Fleet Manager, we speak about geofences, but we also interchangeably use the term locations. So if you hear anybody speak about a location, it means the same as a geofence. So we all know that there's strict enforcements in place at the moment, limiting where drivers can travel during the pandemic to prevent the spread of infection. In Australia at present, for example, most people are not permitted to cross state borders, and in the UAE, you're not allowed to cross into neighbouring Emirates. I'd like to show you how to create a geofence or a location to make sure your drivers aren't going where they're not supposed to. So I'm going to go to the map And this is the piece of section here around this large building that I want to have my geofence. I want to create a no-go zone here. Nobody is permitted to drive into this property during COVID-19. What you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, there's some map tools available. This one here, if I hover the mouse over it, it says create location. Remember, that's the same as saying create geofence. If I click on that, you'll see some shapes have appeared here, and these are the tools that I'm going to use to draw my geofence. I could do a free-formed one by clicking on the map with a polyline. If I'd like to do a polygon, that's available, a rectangle. For me, I'm going to do a circle around this one. So I'm going to click on circle, and I'm going to click and drag the circle around that area. And I'm going to come over here because a new window has opened and I have to give my location a name. Stockyards premises. What type of geofence is this one? It's a no-go zone. Nobody's permitted to go in there. I'm going to select no-go zone. What site does that refer to within the database? It refers to our Brisbane site, and we've got the ability to have a certain color. I'm going to choose red for this no-go zone, and then I'm going to click save. Now that geofence has been created, we can do a variety of things now. We could assign a notification event to go to certain managers within your company to say that David drove in there and an event has been triggered to say that I've driven in there when I'm not supposed to. I've gone into a no-go zone at 10:35 a.m. today. We can also assign a speed zone to that. So if the maximum allowable speed limit within that zone is 20 kilometers per hour, we're able to set that, and any vehicle going over 20 kilometers per hour will get a overspeeding in location exception against them. And we're also able to run a movement report. This is going to give you very good visibility to see who's been driving into geofences and how much time they've been spending in those geofences. Let's say, for example, you do allow someone to go into an area, but they're only allowed to stay for 5 minutes to reduce the risk of infection. We're able to report on how long a driver spends inside each geofence. So to do that, I'm going to run a movement report. So I'm going to click on Measure, Reports, click the drop down, go to Movement Reports. I'm going to click the Daily Movement Report. Select my vehicles, next. Now I've got the selection here for which geofences. If I open that up, I'm going to say all of them. I'd like to see anybody who's visited one of the geofences because we have coronavirus restrictions inside each one. What's the period? Let's just say for the last 7 days, who's entered any of those. Click next, next again. I'd like to download that as a PDF, run. The report's appeared in the bottom left corner. And the report is generated to show that, yes, some drivers have gone through some geofences. We've got an arrival time at the geofence, the amount of time spent within the geofence, and the time that they departed the geofenced area. So the next section that we'll talk about is licensing and servicing. So obviously it's very important that despite the disruption we face with coronavirus, that we still maintain our vehicles. One of the pillars of safe driving, of course, is safe vehicles. They can only be safe if we're maintaining them and ensuring that all scheduled servicing is getting done. So if I go back to the home page, if I select assets, and if I click on one of my vehicles, on the left-hand side, we've got sections such as service history. So anytime you have a service, you can click on add entry and you can put the details of the date of the service, what the odometer was, and then you can keep track of all of the servicing for that particular vehicle. Now, during this time, there's probably workshops closed to prevent spread of infection. It might be more difficult to service your vehicles. It's probably a good time to set something like this up so that you'll be reminded that a particular vehicle is due for service, so you can make arrangements in advance to have it serviced. If I click on here, reminders, and the first tab is service, and I can choose to be reminded by distance. For example, the next service is due at 10,000 kilometers. I'd like to be reminded when it's 200 kilometers prior to that it needs a service. Or I can be told on duration, maybe 3 days before the service is due, I'd like to be reminded that a service is due for that vehicle. Down the bottom, we can put email addresses of the people that need to be notified that this vehicle needs to have a service. That'll come through to your inbox, letting you know that this Ford Ranger requires a service. Now, what we can also do is set up driver's license and roadworthy certificate reminders as well. Certainly a good way to remind you in this uncertain time of when your vehicles need to have their roadworthy certificates renewed. Again, you can receive notification via email that those are due. In a similar manner, we all have drivers who have to have the correct driver certification to drive certain vehicles. You can add certifications in here and any required driver's licenses as well for this particular vehicle. And you can keep track of ensuring that only people who are certified to drive it are doing so. Okay, well, the next section I'd like to talk about is mixed vision. So to help keep drivers safe and to ensure that fleet managers and health and safety managers are acting upon their responsibilities, you can utilize mixed vision video camera system. Now, during the coronavirus pandemic, there's probably a greater likelihood of drivers using their cell phones. It's obviously a time of great uncertainty. People are using their phones a lot to stay in contact with family and friends. Maybe they're on hold waiting to get through to banking services. Obviously, that goes against our driving policy. There's to be no cell phone usage while we're driving. You can use our mixed vision camera system to check for compliance for this. The mixed vision has the ability to have up to 4 cameras. So that would be road facing, in-cab facing, and then another 2 external cameras that you can choose to place on the outside of the vehicle wherever you'd like to. Now, during this time as well, obviously drivers are distracted. They're probably worrying about the uncertainty in the world, job security, the health of their families. And mixed vision video footage is an excellent way to check for driver distraction. I'd like to show you a video. So here we had a truck that was changing lanes, and obviously the Toyota Camry is in the truck's blind spot, and the mixed vision footage has shown clearly what's happened there. The driver of the Camry's done very well to avoid an accident. Now, the footage that's shown in the vision camera could have been used to show that the truck driver was potentially distracted, that the Camry driver was at no fault and did everything they could to avoid the accident. What we can see here is a valuable piece of video that we can use for driver coaching as well, just to let people understand that they shouldn't be driving in trucks' blind spots. A video such as this would be very useful if, unfortunately, there had been a motor vehicle crash here. Insurance companies could have been shown the video footage to show that the Camry driver wasn't at fault in this situation. You can certainly see the benefits of having video recorded footage such as this. So just while we're talking about mixed vision, another thought is that you can also monitor social distancing within your vehicles at the moment with mixed vision. You can clearly see which passengers are in the vehicle, if there's any unauthorized passengers in the vehicle that shouldn't be there, whether people are wearing their seat belts. It's one thing to have an event to say that a seat belt is worn or not worn, but there's nothing quite like having video footage to certainly prove once and for all whether a driver was using their seatbelt. Now, we talk about video footage. A lot of video footage is going to be gathered if you have mixed vision. You can certainly review the video associated with key events like harsh braking or seatbelt not worn. But if something happens outside of that, you do have a lot of video to work through. So we actually offer a service called the Bureau service, where we have a team of driver safety professionals who will look through videos of each event that was triggered by your vehicles, and they'll actually classify whether that event was driver distraction, seatbelt not worn, or any of those events that you have it configured for. It's definitely a valuable service, time-saving service that's going to allow you to be sent a report every day that breaks down what happened in your fleet yesterday, and to just show you the most important video footage from the day before, so that you're not having to look through a lot of video. So the final one that I'd like to talk about today is journey management. Now, journey management is an add-on module that we can also put into Mixed Fleet Manager. I'm going to show you a slide on that. So to help keep drivers safe on planned journeys, an add-on module called Journey Management can be employed. This solution comprises of an online process where a driver who is planning a journey can enter details of the planned journey into the system, answer a risk assessment questionnaire, and our system will generate a risk score for the journey, whether that be low, medium, or high. Now, it's going to give a different risk score depending on whether the driver is certified to drive the vehicle that's being used, whether any part of the trip is taking place during nighttime, whether any part of the trip is taking place on unsealed or rough roads, if there's any particular road hazards along the way, whether the driver is taking any dangerous goods in his vehicle. And accordingly, it's going to give us that risk score of low, medium, or high. Now, the driver would then click submit, and the proposed journey will be sent to management or supervisors within your company who would have the ability to review the planned trip and then click on either approved or declined. Now, if that journey is approved, the driver receives notification that the journey has been approved. The driver is able to print out a map of the proposed journey plan that he can take with him. He's then able to start his journey, and our system will automatically monitor the driver during the journey. Now, you can set certain waypoints along the way, and you also will be given an expected arrival time at destination. Now, if I show you this slide at the moment, we can see that for this customer, they had 4 journeys that were in progress at the time. Those were those journeys that are shown there. It's showing status in progress. Now that's going to automatically update for you. So you know that this journey is in progress at the moment. You're also going to have a screen that's going to show you the route that that driver is taking based on what was provided to him and what was approved. And it's going to give us position-based progress updates during the journey. For this one, the driver is on plan. If for some reason the driver detoured from the planned route, it would say route deviation. If the driver did not reach his destination at the planned time, it would also say not arrived at destination, and you would be able to get an alert sent to you to say that this driver hadn't arrived at the planned location, and you'd be able to try to contact the driver and perhaps launch some help for him. So again, another way that you can manage the risk of your land transport activities with mixed telematics. Okay, well, thanks everybody. That's everything I'd like to show you today. I hope some of that will be useful for you and you'll be able to go away and implement some of this within your operation. A replay of this will be shared with all of you along with details of our next training event, which is planned for the 29th of April. That's going to be on identifying unused assets and vehicles and where they've been during the COVID pandemic. So very useful, again, to see which vehicles are being utilised, which ones are not, and of course, what trips they've been doing. Okay, thanks very much. If we've got any questions, please ask away.
Hi, Dave. It's Bill here from Middle East. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. So, yeah, just a quick one. Thank you for this. I think it was a really good little webinar that you put together for us. Thanks for that. I just wanted to ask if you can maybe elaborate a bit more on those reports you spoke about earlier on, the RAG report, the seatbelt report, etc.
Yeah.
If you could just elaborate a bit more about those reports being automated so you don't have to continuously go into the fleet management program.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that's much more useful rather than running them manually is to set up subscriptions. So if I go into measure reports and we've got the movement report open, which we spoke about was for all of our vehicles going into and out of geofences or locations. So let's say I want the daily movement report to be delivered to my inbox every Monday. That's going to show me all of the information on the movement report for the past week. First of all, I build my report. And I want to see everything that's happened for last week. Now here on this page, I'd like to create subscription. The frequency is weekly. I'd like to receive the report every Monday when I come into the office. I'd like to receive it in PDF. Just the email subject when it arrives in my inbox, and the recipients. I want it to come to me, but I also want it to go to several other people in my organization. So I'm going to enter in their email addresses. So people have been added. I'll then click run, and that's going to set up that subscription for me so I don't have to manually do it each time. Yes, it's a very useful feature to have those subscriptions sent straight to your inbox.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks. Okay, doesn't seem to be any more questions coming through.
I have a question.
I have a question.
Okay, sure.
Question. Can I ask any question?
Yes, please.
My name is Mataya from Kenya, UNICEF Kenya country office.
Matteo.
We have been using these telematic gadgets, and we have experienced delays in starting. Sometimes you want to start the vehicle, and it delays too much. What might be the problem? Thank you.
Delays, we'd probably need a little bit more information on delays with starting the vehicle. It's probably something that sits outside the webinar training. Are you having trouble with starting the vehicle, or is it something that you've reported through to our client care help desk by raising a ticket before? Matteo, can you
There is another question.
Yep.
Yes, I can hear you. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
We reported the matter to the supervisor and the manager.
Yep.
And they said that they follow up to date. So we got this time, and we wanted to ask you if maybe you are aware of that.
I'm not personally, I'm sorry, because I'm in Australia. I would certainly say your account manager and the client care team in Dubai would probably be looking at the issue. Do you have a ticket number for your service request for that one?
No, maybe I'll follow up on that.
It's probably a good idea. Just even talk to your customer success manager and just ask them about logging a ticket into our client care. We have a 24/7 team who would certainly be able to resolve that for you.
Okay,
I'll
thank you.
just jump in here as well, David. Hi, Mateo. My name's Noel Fernandez. I'm the account manager for UNICEF. What I'll do is I'll reach out to you directly after the webinar so we can discuss any issues you have as you raise on the call.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks Noel. Thanks Matteo.
Hello, David. It's Shoji from Bangladesh.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I have a question. So we are using mixed vision in some vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So nowadays, is it possible to see some live footage during the travel time?
It is. We've just recently started to offer live streaming. So we can provide that access to certain people within your organization. I probably wouldn't recommend giving the access to everybody, but certain people would find great value in live streaming. We'd have to enable that via a ticket through to client care. And I imagine you're probably also going to have to sign an agreement just due to the increased data costs for that. But certainly a very valuable thing to have, being able to live stream and check in real time what's happening at each vehicle. We've had requests from customers, we've implemented it now, and yeah, it's certainly something that you'd be able to check with your account manager to see if you can have it within your fleet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, Sophia here. Just to let you know, there is actually a change to the planned session that was scheduled for next week. So the topic of next week's session will be on optimizing fleet visibility, utilization and cost efficiency, and details for that will go out in a mailer to follow in due course.
Very great. Well, I hope we have plenty of you re-attending for that one next week. Thanks very much, everybody, for attending today. It's really great to get so many people on who have such a strong interest in driver safety within their business. So thanks very much.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
David.
you, David.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.